Hours ago, Aryna Sabalenka sat in the Wimbledon press room and said something that changes everything we thought we knew about this story. For 3 weeks, we've followed the most dramatic redemption arc in recent tennis, from unprofessional conduct to apparent friendship. But today's breaking interview reveals the real turning point wasn't the apology, the tick-tock dance, or even Coco Gauff's grace. It was a conversation with a 7-time Wimbledon champion that taught Sabalenka something she'd been missing her entire career.
What emerged in today's press conference is a masterclass in how mentorship can accelerate personal growth. When Sabalenka said Novak is the best, it's amazing to hear the opinion of such a legend. She wasn't just talking about tennis technique. She was describing a moment when someone at the pinnacle of professional excellence showed her what championship mentality actually looks like.
The timing is everything here. Sabalenka didn't just randomly hit with Djokovic. This happened right after the biggest public relations crisis of her career. And what Djokovic told her during that 30-minute conversation apparently transformed not just her perspective on the Gauff situation, but her entire approach to handling pressure at the highest level.
Today we're examining the final chapter of this story, how a legend's mentorship catalyzed genuine change, why Sabalenka's latest comments reveal the psychology of elite performance, and what this teaches us about the difference between damage control and authentic growth. Let's start with what just happened. In today's Wimbledon press conference, Sabalenka was asked about her relationship with Gauff. Her response reveals something we hadn't heard before.
We've always been really good with Coco. Honestly, as I said in the statement and I messaged to her, I didn't really want to offend her. I was just completely upset with myself and emotions got over me. I just completely lost it.
Notice the language evolution. 3 weeks ago, she was calling Gauff's shots magical and saying Swiatek would have won. Today, she's using phrases like emotions got over me and I completely lost it. This isn't just damage control anymore. This is someone who's gained genuine insight into their emotional patterns.
But here's where it gets fascinating. Sabalenka then revealed something unexpected. She's been reading books to cope with the aftermath. When asked about dealing with the backlash, she said,
I'm glad I had books and music so I could just get distracted by reading books. So yeah, I got back to reading. The lesson is learned and definitely not going to happen again.
That's a significant psychological shift. Instead of partying in Mykonos as she originally planned, she chose intellectual engagement and self-reflection. Reading as a coping mechanism suggests someone processing complex emotions rather than simply avoiding them.
Then came the revelation about Novak Djokovic. Sabalenka described practicing with him and having an extended conversation that seems to have been transformational.
Novak is the best. First of all, I was able to hit with him. Then you can chat with him. He will give his honest advice. It's amazing to hear the opinion of such a legend. We were just chatting about stuff that I'm struggling a little bit.
This is where the story becomes about more than just tennis. Djokovic has faced more public criticism and controversy than perhaps any top athlete in recent history, yet he's maintained professional excellence. When Sabalenka says they discussed stuff that I'm struggling with, she's likely referring to the emotional regulation that cost her in big moments.
The conversation apparently lasted 30 minutes, and Sabalenka's description suggests it was both tennis instruction and life coaching.
It was like 30 minutes chat. If you give Novak opportunity to talk, he's not going to stop. I wish I could stay there for like 4 hours and just keep chatting.
That detail, wanting to extend the conversation for hours, reveals someone who found genuine value in the mentorship. This wasn't perfunctory advice from a fellow professional. This was someone recognizing they were receiving wisdom that could change their career trajectory.
Then Sabalenka made a comment that reveals how this mentorship influenced her perspective on the Gauff rivalry.
I don't know, in this case maybe I don't want to see Coco if I make it to the finals. But if she's going to be there, I'm happy because I want to get the revenge.
That's fascinating psychology. She's simultaneously expressing apprehension about facing Gauff again while also embracing the competitive challenge. This suggests she's learned to channel emotions into motivation rather than letting them overwhelm her judgment.
What makes this particularly compelling is that Djokovic actually appeared at the end of Sabalenka's press conference, creating an unexpected moment that reveals the dynamic between them.
I think you have the potential. You're a really talented player, but I feel like you're lacking intensity on the court. You don't have enough intensity.
Really? That's what you're going to say right now? Before this guy was my favorite player, but not anymore. Obviously.
That exchange is extraordinary. Djokovic is giving her exactly the kind of honest feedback that champions need to hear. And Sabalenka's reaction, mock indignation followed by laughter, shows she's learned to receive criticism without taking it as a personal attack.
This public interaction demonstrates the mentorship in action. Djokovic isn't protecting her ego or offering false praise. He's identifying the specific area where she needs improvement, intensity, and emotional regulation, which directly relates to her struggles in big moments.
The playful nature of their interaction also reveals something important about how genuine mentorship works at the elite level.
That joke shows psychological safety. She feels secure enough in the relationship to tease someone she clearly respects. That kind of comfort only comes when mentorship is authentic rather than transactional.
What makes this story particularly powerful is how it demonstrates the role of peer mentorship in professional growth. Dr. Chen, what does research tell us about how champions learn from each other?
Elite athletes often struggle with emotional regulation because their success has been built on intensity and competitiveness. When someone like Djokovic, who has mastered the balance between fierce competition and professional conduct, shares specific insights, it can accelerate development in ways that traditional coaching cannot.
There's also something significant about the timing. This mentorship happened precisely when Sabalenka was most receptive to change.
Exactly, the controversy created what psychologists call a teachable moment. Her usual approaches had failed spectacularly, making her open to different perspectives. Djokovic's timing was perfect, not during the immediate crisis, but when she was ready to learn.
The specific feedback about lacking intensity is particularly insightful. Many people would assume Sabalenka's problem was too much intensity, but Djokovic identified the real issue: inconsistent intensity. She gets over-emotional in crucial moments instead of maintaining steady, focused intensity throughout.
This also explains why her approach to the Gauff situation evolved so dramatically. It wasn't just about learning to apologize, it was about understanding how emotional control impacts performance.
When she connected her unprofessional conduct to her pattern of losing finals, that was the breakthrough moment. She realized that the same emotional volatility that led to inappropriate comments was also costing her championships.
The mentorship provided a framework for understanding this connection. Champions like Djokovic have learned to use pressure and criticism as fuel rather than letting it derail their focus. That's a skill that can be taught, but only by someone who has mastered it themselves.
What we've witnessed over these 3 weeks is something rare, genuine transformation, facilitated by elite mentorship. The question now is whether this change will translate to on-court success.
The early indicators are promising. Sabalenka's language shows increased self-awareness, her behavior demonstrates better emotional regulation, and her openness to feedback suggests continued growth. But the ultimate test will be her next high-pressure match against Gauff.
What's particularly encouraging is how she's embracing the challenge rather than avoiding it. When she says, "I want to get the revenge," that's competitive fire channeled appropriately. She's learned to separate personal relationships from competitive intensity.
This story also demonstrates something important about leadership and accountability. When those in authority positions face genuine consequences for unprofessional conduct, and when they have access to quality mentorship, change is possible.
The role of peer mentorship cannot be overstated. Djokovic didn't just tell her what to do differently, he modeled what championship mentality looks like under pressure. That kind of example is worth more than any amount of formal instruction.
The broader lesson here is about the power of growth mindset at the highest levels of achievement. Even world #1 players can fundamentally change their approach when they encounter the right mentorship at the right moment.
And it shows the importance of authentic relationships in elite sports. The playful interaction we witnessed wasn't just entertainment, it demonstrated psychological safety that makes real learning possible.
Looking ahead, if Sabalenka and Gauff do meet in the Wimbledon final, it will be one of the most psychologically complex matches in recent memory. We'll be watching to see if this transformation holds under the ultimate pressure. This breaking episode was brought to you by Unstruct.ai, where we examine the human dynamics behind public transformation. Today, we've seen how elite mentorship can catalyze authentic change, even for those at the pinnacle of their profession. Novak Djokovic's guidance helped Aryna Sabalenka understand something crucial. The same emotional patterns that led to unprofessional conduct were also limiting her championship potential. When a 7-time Wimbledon champion tells you that you're lacking intensity, they're not just giving tennis advice, they're sharing the psychological framework that separates good champions from great ones. Sometimes the most important lessons come not from defeat, but from learning how to process defeat with the wisdom of those who have mastered the art of sustained excellence. The story continues on Center Court.